By this point, practically everyone knows the story behind the Aeon and the Path of the Hunt. The Rainbow Arbiter and their followers all seek righteous vengeance against those that have wronged them and the universe. Should you do anything that incurs their wrath, no corner of the universe, no matter how far or hidden, can prevent them from finding you. To provoke their anger and gaze is to forever be chased down by the Rainbow Arbiter and their followers till the end of time. Yaoshi and the Denizens of Abundance are one good example of this, with Lan stopping at nothing to unalive the Aeon of Abundance. But is this really the case? While Lan seems to really want to remove Yaoshi from the universe, is it really what they want? To be honest, I'm starting to suspect that it won't actually happen. What if Lan is more interested in the chase itself rather than actually taking revenge? If this were the truth of the hunt, does it mean that the Xianzhou Alliance and the Galaxy Rangers are just following a path that will ultimately lead them to ruin? That's what we'll be discussing in this video. Before we do though, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. Revenge quite often leads to a perpetuating cycle. Someone might wrong you, and as retaliation, you might choose to seek justice or vengeance, which then causes the other side to respond in kind. This repeats until there is functionally nothing left, or someone decides to end the chain of violence. This very thing is what Lan and the Hunt claim to represent. Vengeance or revenge is the cornerstone of the Path of the Hunt. It is said to be the very reason why Lan ascended and how the Path of the Hunt was brought to life. While we don't know for sure, there are currently two versions of Lan's backstory. The first, covered in the databanks, claimed that Lan was once a normal human whose planet was decimated by Yaoshi and the Denizens of Abundance. This caused them to seek out vengeance and ultimately lead them down the path to ascension. The other story is related to the Xianzhou Alliance that mentions an unknown hero from the past who realized the dangers of abundance. Angered by Yaoshi's supposed lies, they fought to detach the Xianzhou from their worship and ultimately end the Plague Author as revenge for what the Aeon did to their people. In their efforts to do so, they ascended to Aeonhood. Now, that second story is likely an embellished piece of fiction, fabricated by the Xianzhou Alliance to convince their citizens to be loyal to Lan, but both stories share some similarities. Each individual in both stories wished for vengeance and retribution. Now, while these stories might make you think that Lan and the Hunt's ultimate goal is the total eradication of abundance and its Aeon, the way that they have acted so far, at least in the story, doesn't seem to make this the case. I'm starting to think that getting revenge or vengeance isn't actually what Lan's real endgame is, and thus I don't think they actually want to eliminate Yaoshi. By achieving this, many that suffer under the abundance would finally get their closure, and many more would be freed from endless life. But at the same time, it also eliminates the cycle that sustains the Path of the Hunt. If all the Aeons are only focused on their Primum Mobile and the continued existence of their respective paths, it makes sense that Lan wouldn't want to end it. Rather, they would want to continue perpetuating the cycle of revenge. Just look at Danshu as an example. She started off as a devout follower only to end up opposing Lan because the Aeon ended up killing her friend. This caused her to side with the Sanctus Medicus, creating the problems we see in the main story, only for the Alliance to end up removing her, inciting the Sanctus Medicus further, and the cycle continues. Fei Xiao also experienced something similar with her friend and most of her community dying to the Rainbow Arbiter when it let loose its arrow. In fact, Fei Xiao even prayed to the Aeon of the Hunt, wishing to never have to experience such a thing again, though it fell on deaf ears. There are quite a few stories like this that show how much collateral damage Lan actually inflicts on their own followers. It's almost as if they purposely want to cause as much damage and despair so that others may rise and make rash decisions in the name of revenge. Again, Danshu's friend, who was a medical personnel located far from the battlefield, died because Lan couldn't be bothered with actually aiming its celestial bow. I mean, even that itself is kind of funny to me. A bow is generally considered to be a precision weapon, but in the hands of this particular god, so much friendly fire happens that you just have to wonder whether Lan is doing it on purpose. Then consider this. With how hungry Lan is for vengeance, why haven't they managed to actually achieve their goal of eradicating Yaoshi? As far as we know, most of the denizens of abundance listed in the arch-enemies list of the Shanzhou Alliance are shadows of their former selves. The Heliobi have mostly been captured and imprisoned, the Borisins have long lost their warhead, devolving to smaller packs, and most of the other enemies have been slowly but surely defeated. So if the armies of abundance have been weakened due to the continued efforts of the Alliance, why hasn't Lan delivered the coup de grace? Does Lan really want to end Yaoshi? I mean, is the hunt really about the closure that revenge supposedly grants, or is it in truth more about the chase and the perpetuating cycle? This is what I think is the hidden truth of the hunt. It's literally in the name. Lan isn't interested in dealing the final blow because the hunt is literally about the hunt. It's about the chase. Remove your target and the chase ends, and perhaps so would the path. I don't know if Aeons have any sense of self-preservation, but I would imagine given they were once mortals, they might have some instinct or desire to survive. So perhaps Lan knows that should they ever reach their goal, their purpose for existence would disappear. Alternatively, this could just be the will of the path acting through the Aeon. What's kind of sad is that many that follow Lan likely dream of a time when they can finally reach their goal. Some might wish to rid the universe of what they perceive as an unwanted evil, while others are just looking for closure, but Lan not wanting to actually do this means they will forever be trapped in this cycle, continuously feeding the path of the hunt. They think they will get revenge, but as far as Lan is concerned, as long as the chase or the hunt persists, they don't care either way. Perhaps like most factions, both the Shanzhou Alliance and the Galaxy Rangers misinterpreted their Aeon and this path, and it has led them down a ruinous path. This is already sort of happening with both factions that revere the Aeon of the Hunt. The Galaxy Rangers are a shadow of their former self, having suffered great losses in the pursuit of justice, while the Shanzhou Alliance suffer casualties on a daily basis, with several of their ships having already been destroyed. Many within the Shanzhou have suffered greatly, with all of them losing friends, family, and more. If this were indeed true, it is a rather cruel lie that Lan has perpetuated. Perhaps Lan themselves was an unwitting victim, unable to change anything once it ascended, having been forcibly bound to the path through the Primal Mobile. The price a mortal has to pay for revenge is seemingly endless suffering. Of course, this is just a random idea and not necessarily indicative of the true story here, one that we haven't fully experienced. There are plenty of reasons why Lan has not defeated Yaoshi that goes beyond just not wanting to. For example, Lan is said to be a far younger Aeon in comparison, so perhaps they just lack the power to end Yaoshi. Or perhaps, as I've mentioned, Lan refuses to do so due to a sense of self-preservation. It's also possible that given the white-hot rage that channels through the Aeon of the Hunt, collateral damage isn't even a concern as long as revenge is exacted. Finally, the hunt may represent other things beyond what we have been told, and without understanding it fully, Lan's motivation and actions are impossible to discern. While these are all possibilities, it's generally difficult to confirm them either way without interviewing an Aeon directly, and Lan doesn't appear to be too chatty. In fact, I don't think they even have a mouth. Whether we include the Aeon and the path in this conversation, the irony of revenge or vengeance is practically this: they won't ever be a good ending. The problem with an eye for an eye is that everyone eventually ends up blind, and the satisfaction you get out of it is always fleeting. This is the irony of a purpose that is fueled by revenge or blind justice. I think that perhaps at some point in its past, maybe during its mortal life, Lan truly wanted revenge, but after ascending, it became a tool of the path, only perpetuating revenge and perhaps even creating situations where others would want revenge instead of actually achieving it. Those that follow it are given a false hope that they can exact vengeance or gain some closure, but in truth, they are caught in a cycle of endless bloodshed that has no end. It would be pretty sad if this is the true fate of all the Aeons, mortals elevated to godhood due to their strong beliefs, only to end up perpetuating a perverse version of their original beliefs. I don't know if this applies to every path and Aeon, but it does seem like that's the case for the hunt. Perhaps one day Lan and their followers can put down their weapons and rest, but with how chaotic the universe is, that's an unlikely pipe dream. Such is the fate of the path of revenge. All roads will lead to self-annihilation. So perhaps IX was right after all. What do you think the path really represents? Could Lan actually achieve its goals, or is it now just a puppet of the path itself? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found the video entertaining or maybe even a bit depressing, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.